Okay, propeller governor and cable adjustment. I just thought I'd do a quick little talk about it. I know it can be kind of confusing. To start with, you got to put the prop cable in. Now, the manuals are all contradictory as to the prop cable goes to the outside or does the prop cable go to the inside. The executive glass manual shows it on the outside, and then all the figures of the new firewall forward shows it putting it on the inside instead of the outside. So, and confirming it with the factory, they are putting the prop cable on the outside, which is the way I've always done it myself. So the prop cable does go on the outside, and the throttle cable will be the inside cable. So obviously the grommet, you have to drill this hole and put the grommet in. This hole here is already in, and then you got to drill this hole right here in this front baffle piece. So what I did is I just went ahead and installed my baffles, and I'm getting ready to put the the cowl on this one. So I've got it all ready to put the seals on, but I'm not going to put the seals on until I adjust and fit the cowl, and then I'll come back and put the seals in, because the seals stand up and put pressure against the cowl. I used to put a lot of weights on here to hold it anyway. So in any case, that just to clarify that the factory did clarify that the prop cable does go to the outside. I don't know, it makes a lot of difference, but in any case, it seems to work out about right. On the inside where we have the prop, and I tell you in the forum post kind of how to initially adjust these, and I haven't tightened and crimped this down yet. But the prop cable is a little bit long. You'll see I had to actually pull a good bit of it back inside. I'll get this back out of the way and strap it in later. But I had it all the way back. You can see, I tell you in the forum, go ahead and adjust this all the way back. And when you put this part on your throttle quadrant prop deal, go ahead and screw it all the way in, because you've got too much. They've got probably an inch or inch and a half too long of a prop cable. So, but you can adjust it out and just put the slack up in here. That's why I say also in the forum, this is the way the manual shows to put this. This is the fuel fuel pressure sensor line that comes from the fuel pump up. But don't tighten this up yet, because you're going to, after you install the baffle and the throttle cable, then you'll have to push this back in and get it right. Then you can tighten these cables. If you tighten it first and you push it back in, you're going to have to loosen it back up. So just leave these loose or leave them off until you get this part done. So in any case, that's our prop cable that comes up here. Now the governor we put on, and we pulled off the plate that was on here from the factory, and we put on the governor. Again, to get it on, you usually have to rotate the teeth. Just reach in and grab the teeth of the gear and move it a little bit and try it and see if it'll go on. If it won't, rotate a little bit more until you can finally get it in there. Now, the trick is to get this, we're going to try to get this, we've got to rotate this piece around here until we can get this prop cable to work right. Now, one thing that you'll notice is this is your throttle quadrant, and you can see how much room you have in here to move these. The prop, where's that? There it is. It'll go up there. See, now I've got it adjusted. See, we're stopping that far short from the front right here, so you still got a little gap. When you come all the way back, we've got a little gap in the back. So that's the full range of motion of the prop. I tell you this because if you adjust it so it's all the way forward, later when you put the trim piece on here, it will hit. This will come too far and hit the trim piece, and it won't let it go all the way forward. So that's what we're kind of shooting for. It's just to keep it so it's fully forward. It's a little bit off right there, and the same thing backwards. So that's my range of motion right there, full range of motion. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. The next thing that happens is when you start to put this piece on, and I don't put the bolts or anything through here. I just take my Allen wrench I'm using to adjust these. I just take it and stick it through there and hold it in place. Then I can still reach the prop handle back there, and I can move it back and forth and see how it is without having to get that bolt in there. That bolt's kind of hard to get in. You have to push it right way against out here to get it in. Anyway, So I just leave that off, put an Allen wrench through there to hold them all together, and then work the prop cable. What you'll find is probably the way that this came from the factory. You see these slots in here, you're gonna have to take all the safety wire off, loosen all these up. These three right here, these three screws right here, so we're adding this bracket as a support right here. So inside of the governor, there's a package came with the governor. It should be sealed in plastic. That'll have a gasket, and it also should have these three longer screws that you need. So you'll take out the screws that came with it and you'll replace it with the longer screws that should come with the governor from Hartzell. And we'll put those in. So we'll loosen up, go ahead and take the safety wire and loosen the rest of these up. Now, the easiest way to rotate this whole thing, what'll happen is this whole plate, this whole piece here with the slot in it, it will rotate left and right. When it does, it'll change this, it'll swing this arm at the same time. Okay, so you can see there's two stops. There's an arm on, there's a here and there's a stop arm here. You can see it stops right there. So that's in the full bite of the prop, the highest pitch. And then when you move it fully forward, it comes up, that little arm will come up and it'll hit this screw. Now that's an adjustable screw right there. You probably won't have to fool with that, but there is some adjustments you can do with the governor to fine tune it that Hartzell can tell you about. The prop is really kind of where you can do some of the fine tuning, and I talk about that in the forum post later right before flight when we talk about fine tuning the RPMs for this governor. So we'll double check it. There's some things we do, we'll double check it before our first flight to make sure we're getting the correct range of RPMs for it. But in any case, this whole thing will rotate. But what happens is, at first, as you'll see, is it's connected to the arm. You see you got this spring right here. When you pull the lever all the way back, well, actually where it is right there, you see how close it is to that spring, but it's off of it. When it first comes, you'll go fully forward with the arm, and you'll notice that it will hit the springs. Now this is not hitting the spring. This looks close, but see it's not hitting the spring, and it is bottoming out all the way here. So that's kind of your goal, is to get it when you've got the prop lever in the right place. This is fully forward, hitting this stop, and this arm, this swivel head, is not hitting the spring, okay? So what'll happen at first, the way you get the governor from the factory, when you take the prop to this position, this right here will hit the spring and it will not go all the way and engage. So what we're having to do is clock it around, move it until we get it to where it will adjust right. There's a couple of things that you can do. There's three things you can do, okay? The first thing you do is you can try, when you loosen these up, you can try and rotate this all the way to move it so that you see if it's enough. But that's never been quite enough. It'll still, when I do it, it'll still slightly hit the springs, okay? So the next thing you can do is you can go ahead and loosen this screw, okay? Now, I don't know why, but they tell you for some reason, don't remove the screw completely, just loosen it, and just enough to where you can take that arm and then you can actually clock the arm. So, and I think in this case, you clocked it in that direction, one click. So I loosened the screw, and then I pulled the arm, loose. I just loosened it enough just until I could get it out enough to where it would not engage, and I turned it to the clockwise, one tooth, so it went back in the case, and I locked it back down, okay? And then I tried it, and it was too much the other way. So that was too much of an adjustment. So then what I actually did then is I came back and I rotated this again back the other way until I got it to where it was right. So you can see here about how much, I think you can kind of see there in this case about how much where I put it is about almost in the middle kind of the range there. So this in the middle of the range, this arm clocked one click clockwise, okay? And I've got this screwed almost all the way in. You can adjust this a little bit in and out. And another thing you can do is you can adjust this a little bit in and out. But I think if you move that arm one click and put that there, then go play with your prop handle. And what I did is I got that to where it cleared it, but my prop lever was coming a little too far forward, so I wanted to move it back. So what I did was come back and I just adjusted the cable a little bit right here. So I actually let the cable go back in. So I loosen this nut and I tighten that one just to move it back a little bit. As I move that back, then it brought that lever back too. So in the end, that's what you can do, play with it to fine tune it. So in checking it again, I'm in the range of motion with my prop levers, so I'm not to the forward or rear stops on the throttle quadrant. Even though it'll go there, it won't, the plate that goes over the cover plate won't let you do it, okay? And then you'll see here, this is about, you can see about how many threads forward that worked for me. It's probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 threads, something like that forward there. And then I tighten that down, make sure you put a star washer on either side. It comes with one, but you gotta add another one that comes with the kit. Okay, and then just make sure your range of motion and you're hitting both stops both ways. Then tighten these back up. And I think they said 20 inch-pounds of torque, so not much torque at all on these right here. And then re-safety wire. And that should work. And like I say, before we get ready to fly, there's some RPM adjustments you can make. You usually won't have to make it with this. Like I say, you usually make it with the prop on the Allen bolt on the front of the prop, which I'm getting ready to put on, which is right here. That'll actually adjust the RPMs on the prop. So you do that first, unless you got really something really far off, you shouldn't have to adjust the governor. And again, make sure you're popping out the front oil plug. There's that metal plug that's in here on the Lycomings, and you got to pop this plug out so the oil will flow to the prop. Okay, so that's it. Hope that helps.